a single leg position or a single leg attack can be obtained from a 2-on-1. Now, when I have the 2-on-1, as I discussed in the earlier module on setups and position and such, I want to keep my shoulder behind and above Colby's here. In that instance, because I have, and of course my head position wants to be in. Now, that being said, if I'm in that good position, my preference is to be sagging here, transfer, and a drag type position. We'll be going over drags in another module more. But again, I want you just to tuck this in the back of your head, because there are times when it's more appropriate to be attacking the upper body or up by the shoulder and the head as opposed to the leg. And it's important to be able to distinguish which type of an attack is appropriate. And what I'm saying here now is, if my shoulder is in really good position, it's behind Colby's shoulder and even a little higher here. At this point, one, I'm really far away from his leg. Two, I'm very close and in a very favorable position because of my angle to drag and just to get behind and sag down on him. So I'm here. I'm in good position. He might be pulling up or fighting, like jamming up here. I'm just going to transfer my weight and come down. Becoming very heavy. When I drag, I'm hanging, I'm sagging like his arm is a rope. My feet will typically come off the mat. I'll do it slow. I transfer. Watch my feet. See, as I spun around behind, Colby was carrying my entire weight. And most of his weight and my weight is on his forward leg. And I was just swinging around like on a rope. From here, I'm in this position here. I transfer. And I'm going to bring him down. All of his weight, all of my weight, essentially, is on his front leg. And as I spin, I put a tremendous amount of weight so he's not able to move it around. And then as I spin around, I take his weight outside of that fulcrum or that center point of his balance to where his balance will break down. And I'll take him down to the mat. Now, as I do my drag, notice as I'm sagging tight, I'm high up on his shoulder. I'm grabbing his shoulder here. My shoulder is behind Colby's shoulder here. When I do the drag, I'm not going to grab low. I'm going to grab as high as I can here. I'm going to come right up his armpit, and you're going to notice this deltoid is going to come directly to his deltoid. And when I swing around, my circle is going to be tight to his body. I'm going to grab here, and when I circle, I'm going to circle very tight. I'm not going to make a broad circle around him. The circle is going to be very tight around him. I'm going to be putting a tremendous amount of weight on this leg, same side of the arm that I'm attacking, and that will make it difficult for him to maintain his balance, especially as, because I'm swinging outside, I'm going to tend to take his weight outside of his own foot, in other words, over his support, and there'll be a point where it'll be difficult for him to maintain balance, supporting both my weight as well as his weight. So the bottom line is, my preference, if I have a really good 2-on-1, my shoulder is high and the shoulder is slightly behind my opponent's shoulder, I prefer the drag. But now we're going to presume that Colby, as I'm hanging down here and pulling his weight down, he gets his shoulder up a little bit, so my position isn't quite as good. Now, you'll notice, as Colby is bent over and I'm really sagging hard, his legs are a little ways away from my hand. It's hard for me to reach. Okay? As he's bent over, his legs are farther from my hands. But because I'm hanging down here and threatening perhaps to shuck him down, as we discussed in the first DVD, or down this way, either this way or this way, based upon my hanging down and sagging on him, and again, I don't sag like this, I want to sag in here. Of course, my head should be inside. Just for demonstration purposes, though, now, my head is outside. As I sag, Colby does not like this usually, so he's going to tend to try to come up, even if he's starting to try to square into me as well. But notice as he squares into me and stands up upright, this leg now becomes closer to me. And it's at that point I prefer to attack. So the situation is not that I've got the greatest position here, because we're going to say Colby has beat me by pulling his shoulder up a little bit, so I'm not in quite as favorable position. As I'm sagging down, Colby's typical response is to try to square up as well as come more upright for fear of getting pulled down to the mat. As he pulls up, I want you to notice, the more he pulls up, he also has a tendency to be pulling me into him. He'll typically be squaring off as well. But as he pulls up, there's a tendency for him to be pulling into me. I'm going to help him because now my shoulder isn't here. It's at the side of his tricep, or between his tricep and his bicep on the outside here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of swing in. I'm going to push his arm into his body, keeping the wrist tugged down because I want to keep weight continuously on this leg. But you'll notice I pin my shoulder into his bicep, into his body, and it's at that point I'm going to reach around behind. Notice I'm not doing this, because by then Colby's going to be gone. I have continuous contact and continuous weight down throughout the course of those series of movements. So I'm a little lower on the shoulder. I'm not in such favorable position. I'm going to be trying to tug Colby down. He's pulling me up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be pushing his arm in with my shoulder. And as I do that, I'm still tugging down to keep the weight. And notice where my head is. It's up high. It's driving in. I'm just cupping the back of his leg here. And from this position, I'm going to just drive the weight. I'm not going to try to let go and pick up here. Again, there's still weight here. I want to drive it to the opposite leg, where the leg I'm attacking becomes very light and very easy to lift. Also noticing too that he's going in a backwards position on one leg, or backwards direction on one leg, which is a position that's unfavorable for him for maintaining his balance. Again, I've got the 2-on-1, but it's a little lower. Right now I'm sagging. Colby's trying to pull me up. I'm going to push. I'm going to push his arm in with my shoulder. I keep the wrist and keep the weight tugged down. And notice it's almost like I swing in here. I want to keep the weight in. The harder he pulls up, and when there's a dog fight in that situation, if I'm really tugging him down as if I'm threatening to pull that arm down and shuck him down to the mat, he's going to be fighting. He's pulling up, and then my swinging motion is almost being helped by him pulling himself up, because as he pulls himself up, there's a tendency for this arm to want to come in. Once more. I'm in this position. I'm threatening Colby here. Sagging. I'm going to try to shuck him down. He's pulling up. His pulling up is going to tend to pull me into him, and I'm going to help. And again, I've got that 2-on-1, and it's almost when I step, I'm not going to step so much like this as much as in. This way. I'm trying to keep a lot of weight, almost as if I'm trying to swing on this arm to get it in, and at the same time keep the weight down. Once more, just for that one specific point. I'm sagging here. When I come in, I'm pushing in. So I'm sagging. I'm hanging on that arm. If I hang on that arm, that makes him pull up all the more, because if he doesn't, he's going down to the ground. So he's either going to go down to the ground, or because he's powering up to avoid that, he's going to tend to want to suck me right into him, and that opens up an opportunity for that type of a single leg attack. Now, that being said, if, again, Colby's got a little bit better position here than he did before when I was up higher and behind, I'm striking down here, sagging on him. Now, if I do attack the single, and for some reason he is able to pull his leg back, it's a very simple matter to shuck. Either straight down And when I say straight down, I mean along the axis from his shoulder to his wrist. Or alternatively, lifting up and down. I think both work. It depends what your style is, what your body build, and basically what you prefer to do. But the notion being, if I'm controlling this arm fairly well, he's got weight on 2 feet, he's fairly stable here, but if I attack and he is able to pull this back, there's a point on the triangle now I want to bring his arm. This is one point, another point, and the third point of the triangle would be out here. So I'm going to take him down that way where he's got no post. And again, that's very easy to do, especially if he's responding quickly and hard. So I'm in here, I'm pulling him down, he pulls me up. It's a very simple matter. As soon as he steps, I'm not going to wait. As soon as his foot comes back, and I'm feeling like I'm missing that single, this arm is coming down. I'm not going to wait till he steps. I can do it then, but there's more of a mechanical advantage if, as he's coming back, I'm pulling down, based upon my being unable to secure that leg initially or palm it from behind.